It's Mindset Monday, it's Mindset Monday. It's the time of the week that we get our mindset right. Alrighty. Hello, beautiful soul. How are you doing today? So, first off, I just wanted to start off by saying that for some of you, trying to find my email, I realize that my email is incorrect, okay, in all of the descriptions for the past 800 videos. So if you are trying to send me an email and you were trying at the email below, it had a T at the end. It's not supposed to have a T at the end. That was a typo. This is what it is if anybody is interested in emailing me. I'm not really sure how to correct that. Do I really want to go through 800 videos and change the email? Not really, but I will do my best as we continue through the future. Now that that is done, let's talk about speaking up, shall we? Okay, because this is a real thing. And I don't know about you, but I have had a lot of a struggle with my throat chakra. It's been one of the things that personally I've kind of always struggled with. Growing up and even the birthing process, I strangled myself with my own umbilical cords and I had to be an emergency C-section baby. And this, I feel, was a very big symbol of having a lot of dreams and recollections of being constrained or slit and killed by the throat, and that was always something that I didn't really think much of, but I realized that even as a child, I was very observant of how others express themselves to pick up on the cues of how I should most acceptably express myself, aka being programmed into the matrix. Now, what I've found really interesting is that for a long time, I wasn't really communicating to myself what's good, Cosmic Light Being JT, what is good to see you out here, fam, for real. But it was definitely something that I think I struggled with. I struggled with being able to communicate effectively, being able to just speak the truth of what I felt like in many cases, because I felt like I didn't feel safe. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I just didn't feel safe. What if I said the truth, it would actually be validated, it would be accepted. I feel like I was just going to threaten people by speaking. So I generally would just kind of observe people a lot as a kid, and most of the things that were going on in my head stayed in my head as not to think, people to think I was crazy. So that was something that I think was a big limiting belief I had that limited my expression of being able to say the truth, of being able to really explore and express that for a time. And I really did look at others and kind of look at what they were doing, because I was pretty convinced that I was going to be under in an insane asylum if I didn't just disguise myself and kind of keep the truth that was beating in my soul, in my chest, in my body, hidden, so I, don't die or something. So I don't know. That's just how it was. So in this Mindset Monday, we're going to be breaking through some of these limiting beliefs that we have surrounding speaking up. Now, I'm going to share a story now, and this is a story about working in groups. And you'll be working in groups. Maybe you're the nice guy. Maybe you're the nice one that doesn't want to disturb anyone. It doesn't want to shake up things. Maybe you have a great idea, but you're just not sure if the rest of the group will go with it. So you just remain quiet, sitting in the corner, and you watch as your whole group burns to the ground because you just didn't know how to communicate your truth and the value that you have. And I think this is something that a lot of people, it kind of stresses them out, whether they're perfectionists and they want to make sure that they're communicating as best that they can, as optimally as they can, and then they freak out and they overthink it and then they end up not saying anything. Or you're just somebody who has been conditioned to have fear when it comes to expressing yourself and communicating to others, especially with vulnerable questionable ideas that are still growing and haven't been validated by all of the majority of humans surrounding you or you're communicating with. So here's what I've learned when it comes to speaking up, and what I hope will help you break some of those blocks. First off, whatever your normal form of communication is, there is somebody else who also finds that form of communication normal. Okay, so whether it's snapping your fingers or making clicking noises with your tongue, you'll find somebody out there who can communicate and resonate with what you're saying. So it's not always just the people. Now, here's the thing with people. Like, we all have people that we wish that we could probably communicate better with. I know I do, and we're working on it, okay? But I think that it's really important to be aware that every person has a unique way that they communicate. And when we communicate in harmony, we are amplifying each other. Everything that you say is contributing to this harmony of the overall just interaction with a group of people, one person, a bird, whatever it is. So it is important to be aware of how you communicate. Know that there is somebody out there who understands your form of communication. The second that you think nobody's going to understand what you're saying, or what you're thinking, or you're just that unique that your form of communication is alien to the world, the second you have cut yourself off, you've communicated to people that you don't want to be understood, that you just don't want to be understood, because you're communicating that by having those beliefs. And if you don't address those, then subconsciously you're going to do things so people can't understand you, not because they don't have the ability to, you just haven't opened the door for them to actually understand you. You know what I mean? So that's something that I think I'm learning and opening myself so that I can understand people, know that there's always a way. We're all connected to this oneness source, and there'll always be a way that we can kind of understand one another. Hey T-Skills, what's good? I'm doing good, thank God. I just wanted to communicate. I have to be honest, I feel like a lot has been going on in my life. I'm doing this 2-week internship, and I've been sleeping at odd hours of the day. So I think yesterday I went to sleep at like 9. On Thursday I went to sleep at like 8. And I'm just like, and communicating that has been something that I've struggled with. The whole concept of time is something that maybe you can relate. I just have a hard time communicating. So, like, all right, they call it Black people time because, we always be late when it comes to the parties. But, when you say, like, oh, I'm going to be there. And this, for some people, like, they're like, I'm going to be there at this time precisely. They show up at that time precisely. I'm somebody that's like, I'm kind of going to be around this time-ish. When I say ish, that means like give me 30 more minutes, kind of. And I'm realizing like, hey Esther, that's probably not the best form of communication, especially for people that would prefer to receive, a time block that's a little bit more precise, where you're not kind of, juggling around. So the reason I'm bringing this up is because I actually had a fear of telling people like, oh, I'm actually going to be late. Instead, I would tell them I'll be on time and then just show up late, which is definitely a really not the best way to communicate, instead of just saying like, I'm planning on coming at this time instead of, so that it is, I'm learning. I had a fear of telling people that I was going to be late, so much that I was still being late. I just wasn't communicating it, which is so much worse. So you have to speak up, okay? You have to speak up. The things that you are fearful of saying a lot of the times are the things that you need to say, and the only reason you have that fear is because if you don't say it, the things are going to do the thing that you don't want to happen. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Anyways, speak up. What's going on? Good to see you, Flow with Life with Antoinette. I am learning a big lesson with time, and I'm saying it with you because this Monday I want to challenge myself to be clear. If I know I'm going to run late, just let people know. Instead of this kind of weird, people-pleasing, self-sabotaging form of communication, which is not working for nobody. Not nobody. It's just not. Okay, so back to honoring your word. I feel like when you're speaking up, especially, okay, I mean, I don't know how many of you are politicians, but we all make promises to people, be them little or small, to our kids, our nephews, our nieces, our cousins, maybe our siblings, our parents, friends. And these promises could be something kind of insignificant. Maybe the person themselves even was like, it doesn't really matter. But if you made a promise, if you said you're going to do something, like, I'll be real. This one lady I worked with a logo with, which she kind of ghosted me. I kind of like never really followed up. I said I was going to hit her up, and I still haven't hit her up, but I know I have to hit her up. Okay. That's the tea. So I'm really just snitching on myself out here. This is so bad. But I'm saying this because I need to speak up about the things that I need to take accountability for, and then do something this week to take accountability for, and to let my word be solid, so that my words have more power, so that when I'm in a situation where I'm really wanting to manifest a certain outcome, or I'm really trying to communicate a certain idea to somebody, my word is solid, and what I'm saying is reaching the highest frequency and vibration it can to be received by that person. So it is doing the little, like, shadow work, the dirty work, and behind the scenes, where you have to tap into your subconscious and the things that you may have said, the things that you may have promised, or just assume that may be limiting you in some way. I'm also working a lot with this idea of people pleasing, like people aren't going to, somebody's going to say shut up. But honestly, at this point, if you, let's not be like big mouths about it, use discernment when you're speaking up. But if you know that you have something that you should say, be it the truth, be it something that may spark some kind of love, like joy or peace in somebody, then speak up, because the world is what it is, and we're only here for so long. And I think the worst thing we can do is not say what we're here to say. Like, we're only going to be alive for so long. And guess what? Does a tree make a sound if it falls when nobody's around to hear it? Well, if you speak up, but only in your mind, and the people that are meant to hear it never hear it, does it actually matter? I feel like sometimes you have like these gold nuggets that if you said to other people, it would change their day. It may change their life. And that's what we're here to speak up about. It could be something as small and as significant as, I like your eyelashes, or something as deep as the deepest secret that your grandfather ever had, or something like that. Like, you being able to speak up can help somebody in this moment. Don't let your words be in vain. Speak when you are to speak. Let the people that are supposed to hear it. I think the thing that, like, when it comes to distortions and manifestations, the reason why we see so many distortions and perversions in our energy body or in manifestations is because we don't speak up about it. We don't speak up about your trauma. It gets buried deep inside, then it's in your subconscious mind. You have to allow yourself to kind of, tilt the soil, like air it out, say what's on your mind, allow this to be processed. It needs to be processed. So yeah, I don't know what you gotta say to whoever you gotta say, but you gotta say it, okay? Like, you gotta speak up. Say it. I'm like allowing myself to tap more into this place where I'm okay communicating with others in a way that, like, I don't care if they get disappointed, but I can do it in a graceful way to kind of minimize the aggravation, the frustration, or any kind of resistance that may be coming up. And I can just taking a breath with me, and just allow the words that come out of my mouth, to who I'm directing them to be graceful, be something that is needed in that time. Like, your words are valuable, and you should be aware, just like every breath that you breathe, you only have so much time to speak up. You only have so much time for people to know what you were thinking, what was going on, what were your thoughts to that one person that you were sitting across the bus for 2 years? Like, what was going on? Having, like, just starting a conversation with random strangers, I mean, in a respectful way. God is protecting you, and you do feel led to go to anybody. Allow that conversation to be something that will enrich the rest of your life. Like, when you speak up, when you really think about it, anything that you want, you have to communicate with others, okay? Like, you can't be like, I really want a house, I really want to live, like, amazing life with a great family. Like, what are you gonna do? Sit in silence your whole life? And I mean, sure, maybe God will send everything that you need, but generally speaking, you're gonna have to speak up to somebody. You're gonna have to speak up to your spouse, you're gonna have to speak up to the retailer, you're gonna have to speak up to how and where and whoever is put in your way to communicate with. You then have to take the action to speak up, and you have to have discernment as well. I think that the thing when it comes to speaking up, right, is that maybe you feel really emotionally charged, and that can sometimes be appropriate to speak up. But now, like right now, we're seeing a lot of riots protesting like certain laws that have been passed, and a lot of people are coming from a very emotional space. And sure, there is value in speaking up from this emotional space so that we can kind of understand the emotions, although a lot of the times it's not as clearly communicated when, you know, versus being in a space where you have collected your thoughts and you thought about how you want to share it. Sometimes, you know, emotion's going to take over and you're just going to say what you're going to say, and at that moment it's meant to come out. But having discernment with your emotions and what you say, like, I read my diary the other day and I was shitting on my best friend at the time because she was talking to my sister more than me, and I was getting jealous. And if I told her some of the things I wrote in my diary at like 11, 12 years old, I mean, we wouldn't be friends anymore, but I felt so ashamed after that, and I buried it so deep inside of my 10-year-old mind that I didn't even like communicate. Of course these things came up, and it kind of put a, like, our friendship did not really grow from that point on until recently. And I told my sister, like, this is how I felt towards my best friend because she was talking to you. And when I said it out loud, and when I really took time to acknowledge like how what bitch I was at that age and the things I was saying, like, I knew that I was coming from a very emotional place, and that speaking that up and just, you know, from that place probably wouldn't have been the best idea. But actually writing it down really did help me reflect in the long term of what was going on during that time. And being able to share it with my sister, I think, also strengthened our relationship and helped us to be more authentic with our communication and know that, hey, emotions are going to go up and down. But yeah, having discernment. You don't have to speak every single thing that you think out into the world or to the people that is involved with it. Sometimes you have to have discernment and say, if I'm really in this emotional state where my tongue is just loose and I'm just saying things and I'm swinging like my mouth like a sword and just out there to hurt someone, then have discernment and know that, all right, like, you feel that way for a reason, and being able to communicate is very important. But yeah, having that discernment is chef kiss. So yeah, I'm making this video again on this Precious Mindset Monday because it's time to speak up, okay? Whether it's like, and I don't want to get into politics, but whether it's politics, if that's your thing, whether it's just with friends or families or just the people that you know you need to speak to, but maybe you've been putting off, like, you kind of just gotta, like, communicate. And it doesn't always look like yelling at the top of your lungs for somebody to hear you. You already know it actually starts with being able to communicate effectively to yourself. Okay, mouth like a sword. Yeah, you already know the sword's energy is coming out. But as we go throughout the rest of the week, really be aware and mindful of what you are saying to yourself and to others. You know, if you're making promises, whether it's like with the time commitment or with something you don't really want to do, speak up about it. If somebody's like, hey, can you do this? And you, for a fact, are like, no. Don't be like, maybe, like, send me more answer. No, I've learned my lesson with that. And then you're gonna complain about energy vampires when you were the one that let them in the door in the first place. So being able to speak up about this is so important. You use your voice to bring your manifestations. Like, now is the time to really explore who you're communicating with, how you're communicating to them, and what it is that you're speaking into existence. Because, if you are thinking disharmony and you're speaking disharmony into existence, even if you're trying to make it harmonious by saying, like, oh my gosh, the world's so disharmonious. So just be aware. Have discernment. Be aware of these things, and play with your words, play with your form of communication, especially with yourself. I like to think about Pickles when I want to disrupt my pattern of thinking, or if I was having a dialogue that wasn't that productive or helpful, or just was kind of bringing me down. I'll think of a random word. Usually Pickles comes to mind. But yeah, there's lots of things you can do to kind of sharpen your sword of discernment and communication and being able to know when to speak up. So many people have resentment because they don't speak up. And I feel that, even sometimes I'm like, man, I should have said something there. But guess what? Use that as fuel. Communicate to yourself in a way that's actually helping you. And know that everything that you say or everything that you feel led to say, maybe you don't say at all, it has a reason, it has a purpose, and especially the things other people say. I know that we're not going to listen up, but maybe next week we'll talk about listening up. But today we're talking about speaking up, okay? So speak what's on your mind. Be aware of what you're thinking. Also listen to others. And change the world, because it really just starts with communicating and letting others know. That's the spark. So plant those seeds. I hope that you plant some wonderful, joyous, beautiful seeds. I appreciate you for joining today's Mindset Monday, beautiful soul, and I hope that the rest of the week just flows gracefully for you. All of the communication that you are meant to do, wherever you're meant to speak up, you are able to, and it's just powerful, beautiful. Thank you so much for joining. I'm learning that not to be ashamed of speaking up my mind and does not have so much fear surrounding it. It's been a journey, it's a trip, and we're going to continue to grow into our authentic expression one day, one word at a time.